Hello, I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, a historically humanist congregation. And this is Coffee and Wisdom, when we look at some of the ideas from religions and philosophies that have fed into where we are nowadays and where we may be going. This week, we have been asking, what have we learned from religion? Because people have been doing religion for a very long time. What have we learned over time by looking at the world through this lens? And today I want to talk about medicine and chemistry. That's a couple of things we've learned over time. This is a topic that is way too broad to get very deep in on a little program in the morning, but we want to take a very quick look at this idea. Of course, I mean, the great moment of human beings being scientists, first one was the control of fire. We didn't invent fire, of course. We just learned to control it. And that was indeed quite the coup for the scientific human mind. We do forget that the early humans were brilliant scientists as they were figuring out how to deal with this kind of thing. Little cartoon here that says I was just rubbing sticks together for fun. I didn't realize I was doing basic research, but of course that is exactly what our forebears were doing, basic research to figure out how to control certain elements in their environment. And of course, the control and use of fire is absolutely central to human religious traditions. Even Unitarian Universalists light a chalice or candle, very small potatoes compared to the huge kinds of uses of fire that many religions do. The picture I have here is of a solstice celebration with a whole lot of fire going on. Who started it? Well, yeah, the primitive peoples way back with the beginnings of fire. Where it begins within written languages is a little more difficult to figure out. Definitely the Egyptians were there very early on. I have here a picture that's a very fanciful way of presenting the god Thoth. The Egyptian god of writing, magic, wisdom, and the moon. Of course, the Egyptians were pretty brilliant when it comes to chemistry because they were able to mummify people as part of religious practice. But they were dealing with some fairly complex issues to figure out what they were doing. And this god becomes very important within the traditions, as we'll see in just a moment. This is from the Sydney, Australia Science Festival. This picture, they have invited a Aboriginal shaman to come on into their science festival to share his chemical wisdom, ancient medicines, etc., by using the flora and fauna of that the Aboriginal peoples had available to them. So yes, it goes way back, and we have begun, fortunately, to start realizing that these native peoples who have kept up some kind of society continuity have a lot of wisdom to share with us. Of course, shamanism has not gone away. This is a contemporary picture of a shaman who makes ayahuasca. You can go visit him today if you have the cash and the willingness to go into the Amazon jungle. If you see the picture, you do see that he is dealing with chemicals and he's making ayahuasca, which is a hallucinogenic drink that brings on religious, spiritual understandings. So, of course, shamanism has long been working with mind-altering drugs and doing the chemistry to do that. And again, still around today. And of course, the Chinese, as with many, many things, were early on that boat. Acupuncture goes back into ancient history, probably at least 5,000 years. It is part of the Taoist understanding of the movement of what they call qi or qi through the body. The Chinese Taoist understanding is that there are 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. It's according to how you dice it up there, but that was their understanding, or is their understanding, of how the elements work. In Taoism, there has been the search for what they call the golden elixir. And the golden elixir would be like a fountain of youth. It would be something one could drink and live forever, or at least a very long time. And that has occupied the minds of Taoists for many centuries. And of course, it has led to the discoveries within chemistry. I have a diagram here of a Chinese golden elixir device here, and as you can see, it does have a kind of connection to a still, if you will, and various ways of doing dealing with chemicals and condensation. Of course, also in Islam, early Islamic philosophers were very into the ideas of alchemy, which of course leads directly to chemistry. In this picture, you can see that they have the bottles and jars with important chemicals as they try to think through, again, probably something having to do with immortality. Part of the idea that goes into the Western world is from Plotinus, who we have talked about before, very much a philosopher who recreates the ideas of Plato, that there is a spiritual world out there. Plotinus said, God is not external to anyone, but is present with all things, though they are ignorant that he is so. Now, this goes directly into the ideas of Hermeticism and chemistry and alchemy. It's not Christian dogma, of course. No, God is on a throne outside of the universe, up there somewhere judging us. But into the scientific mind and the Hermetic mind goes this idea that God may be everywhere and we can deal with God by doing chemistry. I have a little picture here. It's in Latin, of course, of an early alchemist. Prominently in the picture, a word that we do know is anima. We are here boiling some kind of chemical, and anima is coming out of it. Anima, of course, is the Latin word for soul, and of course, where we get the word for animation and animal and those kinds of things. So the belief here is that there is something in the soul that is permeating everything and can be in some way clarified and purified through the use of chemistry. So good idea. The great person in this, the most famous person in this, in the writings, is Hermes Trismegistus. That is Hermes the thrice mighty or great. Actually, this person never existed, it appears, but the people in the late Middle Ages and into the Renaissance period believed that he had existed and that he had written a book that contained all of the secret knowledge available. And so they were always looking for this book. There were some forgeries floating around that purported to be writings from Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes, of course, gives us the name Hermetic. So these are the Hermetic philosophers. This is a little more fanciful picture of Hermes, looking all like a pharaoh, dancing along, standing with one foot on a dragon, and the various symbols of his greatness there, and a book that's just kind of levitating above his hand, being this Hermetic writing that we can find, but alas, it was a forgery. Well, Hermes, where did he get that name? Well, Hermes or Mercury was one of the Greek gods. And of course, we have here a little Roman era statuary with his caduceus. And famously, Hermes is the messenger of the gods. And what he carries with him is the staff that has wings on it. He's a fast dude, and two snakes twining together going up that particular walking stick. That, of course, becomes a medical symbol. I have a symbol of the U.S. Public Health Service there, and it has an anchor and a caduceus. What's the significance of this? That's really unknown. It probably goes back into Egyptian mythology. The idea is that the snake in some way is able to transcend the material world and go into the world above. And of course, Hermes is in the world above, and he flies down to talk to human beings as a messenger of the gods. So that's the idea of this connection between the up and the down. This is Mr. Hermes Trismegistus saying, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. And that is the absolute formula for Hermeticism that goes into alchemy. As above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. Everything in reality matches as something else. It's all a whole, and everything is a miniature or the maximum, and it all fits together. So if we look at a blade of grass, we're going to find the universe within it. That's the idea that's going on here. Again, there's all kinds of medallions if you start looking around out there, as above, so below. We've got the sun and moon and all kinds of imagery that goes on with this guy, because again, he didn't exist, so we can get as fanciful as we want. In the picture that I'm showing here, we do have a helmet that's associated with Alexander the Great, and one of the ideas is that Alexander the Great's army contained these magicians who were gathering secret knowledge. And of course, he is holding his secret book, and also the way the universe worked according to the understandings of the time. Another medallion from this, as above, so below, and vice versa. In this one, we get the idea that the material world, it's a picture of a tree with the roots. The material world is the soil where the roots of the tree are. And then the upper world is the tree out in the open air. And between it, it's not a great picture, but between it is an eyeball. The idea here is that if you look closely enough, you can find the connections between the below and the above. And that's what it's all about, is checking out how reality works by close observation. And there you see how science is going to be coming into the picture. Just threw this in because those of you who know the tarot deck will see that Mr. Hermes here is in the same color printing from the German versions of the tarot cards. So all of this is very much about hidden knowledge that goes into all kinds of understandings of magic, etc. Books are aplenty out there. One that I liked very much is The Rise of Alchemy in 14th Century England, Plantagenet Kings and the Search for the Philosopher's Stone by Jonathan Hughes. Absolutely fascinating how people bridge this gap between what we would consider magic nowadays into the ideas of science and chemistry. What they were looking for is in Europe was the real philosopher's stone. The idea was that there was a hierarchy of in the material world. Gold is the perfect one. Well, why? Because it's valuable, right? And so what they wanted to do alchemically is to purify lead so that it would become the absolutely pure gold. That didn't work out for them, but it did give, again, rise to understandings within chemistry as they went on. Here's a little picture from the time period in the 1400s. In it, we have an alchemist who is messing with his chemicals. And over his shoulder, you can see that he has a diagram, a picture of a human body being dissected. That, of course, was illegal at that time, but it did figure into the understandings of the alchemists. And so they really become the first scientists to really be dealing with the world in an observable sort of way. And all of it was tied together with the secret, the ideas of the hidden meanings of things, and cooking down to the perfect, absolute philosopher's stone. there are everywhere out there ideas from this time period. I have an alchemical symbol that is going to be used quite a bit in Satanism and in ideas of magic and the alchemical table of symbols. Oh, yeah, it's not the periodic table, but the people were going after the idea that a materiality out there could be used to develop something else, made into something else by mixing these elements. The great touch point of science and alchemy is with Newton. Newton, the alchemist, science and enigma, and the quest for nature's secret fire, quote unquote, by William R. Newman. Many of you probably know that Newton did more research in Hermetic alchemical arts than he did in the actual mathematics of how the universe works physically. He was absolutely convinced that there was something out there magical to be discovered. And again, he is the great colossus at the beginning of Western understandings of science, but he also was very into the ideas of alchemy. Very quick overview there, but yes, religion has taught us some very interesting things, including medicine and all kinds of science out there. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe on YouTube to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. That is where we broadcast our assembly, and also Den of Conversation, which is specifically a humanist channel with humanist content. And the more subscribers we have, the more the message gets out. There. We won't be meeting on Monday. It is MLK holiday, and I hope you'll celebrate in some way. And this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, one of our assistant ministers, Reverend Kelly Clement, will be talking about the Moses and Joshua generations, justice proclaimed and justice imagined. Join us then. Thanks a whole lot, and we'll be back with some coffee and wisdom next Tuesday. Thank you.